Hello everyone, welcome to Parwaaz video series on planning the next normal. My name is Jawad Khan and I'm the CEO of PSDF and the country head of Parwaaz, the national accelerator on closing the skills gap in Pakistan, set up in partnership with the World Economic Forum. Parwaaz has been set up specifically to reskill, upskill and new skill the current and future workforce of Pakistan, so they are ready to embrace the impact of automation and technology. Parwaaz is supported by the most influential business leaders from across Pakistan and sectors, and you will get to hear their perspectives on business outlook and jobs on this platform. Our guest today is Mr. Mohammad Aurangzeb, President and CEO of HBL Bank Limited. Aurangzeb is also a co-chair of Parwaaz and leads the Financial Services Working Panel. Welcome to the platform, Aurangzeb.
Thank you very much. Pleasure being here.
Let's start with asking you for a brief introduction to HBL Bank Limited.
So HBL is the largest bank in the country, and there are various matrices through which that can be described. We just look at the size and scale in terms of assets, in terms of deposits. So we have about 14% of the market share on the deposit side. Our customer base is the largest in the country, so we are a little north of 22 million customers in Pakistan. So that's one matrix. The second one would be in terms of the reach and distribution. So we have the largest network with a little over 1,700 branches, and then number of alternative delivery channels. So 2,000 plus ATM network. We have roughly 50% of country's POS infrastructure. So about 25,000 POS machines, and then about 40,000 plus our branches banking agents. The third matrix would be around just our lending portfolios. So we have the largest agriculture portfolio, we have the largest SME portfolio, we are the largest card issuer in the country. The last thing I want to mention is also a bank which has presence internationally. So we are very active in 12 countries, and we are revving up our investment in places like China, where inshallah we'll have our second branch opening up in Beijing later on in the year. Now, because of all of this, State Bank of Pakistan, which is the central bank, has designated us as a DSIB, as domestic systemically important bank in the country.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for the introduction, Aurangzeb. COVID-19 has had this devastating impact on businesses around the world, and Pakistani businesses are no exception. How has that the pandemic impacted the financial services industry in general and HBL specifically?
So Jawad, as you know, I mean, this is quite frankly the ultimate black swan event, right? Where we have seen, standstill of world economies, including that of Pakistan. And what is very particular about this one is the simultaneous suspension of production and consumption. Now, the only thing different in this one, which when I compare it to the GFC of 2008, when we went to the financial crisis, this crisis has actually not started with finance or banks. And I say that because of a specific reasons, that the banks generally have come into this crisis with healthy balance sheets, healthy liquidity ratios, good capital buffers. And therefore, banks have to be and are part of the solution as we go forward. So as a DSIB, as I mentioned, I mean, HBL is very clear what we need to do in terms of resilience for our client base, in helping our clients, in helping our communities in this time of need.
Fantastic. And what does this pandemic mean for the current state of employment and jobs, both in the financial services as well as HBL? Has the industry seen a lot of layoffs, and in what specific roles, or has the industry been able to retain and preserve most of the jobs?
So, Jawad, the main discussion point here is that right from the beginning, as you know well, that banking has been declared as an essential service. So, for practically speaking, throughout the last 3 to 4 months, we have had bulk of our operational network open. So I think there was a dip at one point in time where, maybe overall in the industry and then in HBL, we had about 25 to 30% of our branches closed. But most of the time, the operational network has been open. Also for us in HBL in particular, because as you know, we have been leading the SARS emergency cash disbursement program. And that is the largest emergency cash program in the history of the country. So actually, as of last Friday, we have disbursed close to $700 million, or 110 billion, 112 billion rupees to a little over 10 million beneficiaries. So quite frankly, we have had to work more than full time to deliver on a number of these aspects. So to answer your question, it has had very limited impact, if any, on the employment in the banking industry because it has been declared as an essential industry.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. And what is your perspective on the outlook over the next 12 to 18 months? Were there any specific plans, especially at HBL, growth plans that pre-COVID? And have they changed? Have they been altered? Have they been installed? Have they been modified? What does the outlook look for over the next 12 to 18 months, especially when we're still living in very uncertain times?
Yeah, that is correct. But look, at this point in time, we are all very focused to help our clients negotiate a very difficult period. And right now, we are all focused to ensure that what is a liquidity event for our clients and the customer base and the industries in general, right? Because it started with a sort of a supply shock when we said, China and Korean factories are closed. Then it became a demand shock when US and Europe closed down. And then we had the production facilities here closed down. Now, from a banking industry perspective, from HBL perspective, we just need to make sure in conjunction with the central bank that we help the clients in terms of the liquidity crunch, in terms of all the reschedulings that we have done, all the financings that are being done at this point in time, so that this does not turn into a solvency issue, where there would be, God forbid, any bankruptcies, etc., at some point in time. So as of now, I think the whole focus is to helping out the clients through this liquidity event. So from our perspective, we have always been very clear that we will continue to invest in our technology and our people through the cycle. And yes, it is a very extraordinary crisis, but Jawad, we are not holding back from investing either in technology, which quite frankly, in times like these has already paid off in a big way. And then, of course, in our people agenda.
Very good. So, given that you're quite bullish about the business outlook over the next 12 to 18 months, especially at HBL, what would that specifically translate into in terms of employment and jobs for the youth? What are the specific areas in which you will either be upskilling or hiring new talent?
Yeah, so John, I might start by saying that I'm not necessarily bullish, but I am saying that I don't think, other than China, we have seen a V-shaped recovery anywhere in the world, right? So in Pakistan, whether it becomes a U-shaped or L-shaped, only time will tell. The reality is we've seen the recent budget, the GDP growth forecast has been slashed, right in the negative territory. Now, banking is going to is in a derived demand business, so there will be impact. All I'm saying is at this point in time, we don't see a major bankruptcy or NPL issue for the banking industry. if we do the right thing in helping out the clients over the next sort of 6 to 8 months during this liquidity crunch. Having said that, I mean, your question is, where are the employment opportunities and how would people look? Look, I can only speak for my own institution at this point in time, that we used to take, quite frankly, weeks in coming to a decision. And over the last sort of 3 to 4 months, it's a question of agility on steroids, right? So we have to sort of build that muscle memory that everything that we have been doing as an institution, as an organization, and a lot of this has been data-driven decision-making, right? Where we have people working remotely, etc. So people, especially the youth, who have been involved and who will continue to be involved in data analytics, AI, technology overall, I think they just have huge prospects as we go forward. Because some of the imprints that have been left, and it's still an unfolding story. So we don't know when and how it's going to end. But I see a big upside for all of those youth who are tech savvy.
Interesting. So that's about the new opportunities. But let me talk a little bit about your current workforce. Obviously the budgets have been shrinking. And we're also living in a new reality, which most of us have not seen before, which is work from home. So given these two situations, how are you catering to the learning and development needs of your current workforce? Is online learning becoming the new normal in how we cater to the learning and development needs?
Yeah, I think the e-learning modules, and we were already on that path in making sure that we scale that up. But post-COVID, we quite frankly didn't have too much of a choice but to bring down the classroom training quite low for obvious reasons in terms of new SOPs, social distancing, etc. But what learning and development has gone over the last 2 to 3 months is just amazing. In terms of flexible hours, duration, and just the size and scalability of it, right? Because we are now all into a broadcast mode. It's not a question of, 20 people or 30 people. Zoom can take what? 200, 300, 400. So just, this broadcast mode has, in my view, just transformed this whole learning and development and the virtual platforms which have brought in. And this is not just restricted, quite frankly, vis-a-vis our own internal learning and development. But as you have seen, and I'm sure you would have been on some of these webinars, we have done a number of these now for our client base as well, right? And we just did a trade webinar. I think about 350 plus clients joined that trade webinar, which was all about how we are going to take this into the digital world. And about the 350 clients who joined us, not only from Pakistan, but from international locations as well. So size, scale, duration, broadcast mode. Wonderful.
Fantastic. So that is then, it's a great segue into my next question, which is, this pandemic has necessitated us to become more innovative and become innovative fast, and in order to ensure business continuity. What are those 2 or 3 such innovations do you think that are going to become a permanent part of your ongoing business and operating model?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, Jawad. And the way I look at it, what we have gone through as an organization, it's a multi-act, right? So wave 1 was crisis response. Wave 2 is adapting to the new norm, including the way we are communicating to each other right now. And wave 3 is exactly what you are talking about. So that is very much work in progress in terms of what are going to be part of that muscle memory and the permanent features that are going to be with the organization in a world of coexistence or in the post-COVID world. Now that, quite frankly, is work in progress. But from my perspective, Jawad, I am very, very clear that the operating model is going to change. It's a question of degree. And, the two or three aspects, certainly innovation on the HR side. We have been talking about flexible hours. We have been talking about remote working. Now, as of now, roughly 30% of our workforce, and this we have a total workforce of about 22,000 people, are working from home. And we have moved, in a very seamless manner in terms of managing the largest institution in the country in terms of, remote working. So HR. Then the second one is client engagement. How do we actually interact with our clients? What tools we are going to use going forward? What is the role of travel that's going to be, right? I mean, previously all these road shows and capital market road shows, we would be jumping up and down into the planes, outside the planes, and that has worked out sort of quite well. So we are very quite focused on this, and then the last one is the real estate, right? It's all connected, in terms of density and in terms of social distancing, in terms of do we really need all of this real estate in terms of our investment strategy going forward? So, to sum it up, I mean, it's become a cliche, Jawad, that, people say there, decades where nothing happens, and there are weeks in which decades happen. So, and that's exactly what has happened with digital transformation. So I think that is going to be the key theme here. And then everything in and around it, whether it's people, whether it's real estate, whether it's our client engagement, all of these areas have gone through innovation, and we will continue to move in that on that path going forward.
Aurangzeb, do you think some of the actions and the innovations that you've talked about, do you see them happening across the financial services industry? And do you think there is a need for some kind of a collective action at the industry level to make these changes permanent?
I think there are a couple of things. One, obviously, a lot of this, the reality is, people who are going to be winners versus laggards. Quite frankly, if I look at our own institution, the fact that we were able to scale up our payments, collections, mobile apps, and use of digital channels and mobile apps to start offering personal loans, credit cards over the last 4 to 5 months is because we have been on that journey in terms of investment technology over the last 3 to 4 years. There is no magic wand to it. So I think here it was a question of all sort of scaling it up, and the fact that we have a little over 2.4 million active mobile app users through our Connect and through our HBL mobile app certainly gives us a leg up. So there is, all the industry who are sort of, have been focusing on technology and not just brick and mortar, I think will come out very well. Others will have to learn, will have to invest in a big way. So I do think you will start seeing, the differentiation which was beginning to happen in the industry in terms of people who are on the front versus the laggards, that gap increasing. But I do think as an industry, everyone has realized the importance of digital transformation. The other is keeping people employed, right? How do we keep people employed in our industry? And I think the industry is already, Jawad, in my view, stepping up in a very big way, including ourselves, in terms of the Rozgar scheme from the central bank, right? As you know, as it is actually in the papers today, that State Bank has, extended that scheme for another 3 months. And we have dispersed close to about 17 billion rupees to various companies across client segments so that they can keep their own people employed in the various sectors. Coming back to the industry, as I mentioned, we were and remain an essential industry, but right now we are all focused to bring, first of all these people back into, into the workforce, back to the extent that we need them in our offices in the first instance, and then we can think about roles and responsibilities going forward.
Yeah. So, Lastly, I just want to, we're all aware of the sentiment amongst the youth, which is, these are very uncertain and despondent times for them, especially these young people that were supposed to graduate from colleges and universities. They were not able to, in certain cases, complete the programs, got an online graduation. Some of them lost their jobs and are looking for new jobs. So in these very despondent and uncertain times, what is the one positive message that you can give to the youth generally, or about the financial services industry, or about HBL specifically?
So Jawad, here my optimism would come in, because I am a half glass full person, and if I can say it in Urdu, ye mulk khuda daad hai. So it has this country has seen a lot of adversities, and of course this is an extraordinary crisis. But this country also has proven its resilience through the cycles. I have no doubt it's going to bounce back, inshallah, sooner than later. But I do think this is a bit of that downtime, if you want to call it that, where we have a fantastic opportunity, and the youth have a fantastic opportunity because of the way we are communicating now. The world is open to them. It's not any campus, it's not any specific classroom. They can today access anyone everywhere around the world. This is the time for them to invest in themselves, right? In terms of every opportunity which is coming through e-learning, and quite frankly, equip themselves, especially in the technology and the digital space. And I'm not talking about, quite frankly, everyone has to be a programmer. Therefore, I use the word tech savvy, right? And the youth, and of course there will be opportunities in the IT infrastructure. There will be opportunities in people who want to be in the incubation centers, people who are going to be in the front line. But the people who are going to be in the front line, and that's where the youth who invest in tech savvy, and as I said, the client engagement models are going to change, right? People who are going to use these digital channels, and that's what they should do. Use this downtime to invest in themselves. I do think this is a fantastic opportunity for them, and when they come back in, and it's not just banking, but across the industry, they can use this technology, because I can tell you, there were people, of course, we talk about large corporates, Jawad, and very sophisticated corporates, but there were people in the SMEs, if I call them, a bit of a state culture, where he would say, or she would say, every check has to be signed by me. And I tell you, there's been such a transformation that, they've come onto our payment portals, because even if they want to, they can't. So it's, with that necessity, if, people who are, in my age bracket, or 60s or 70s, who have changed their lifestyles in a huge way, these youth, they have a huge opportunity in front of them to invest in them. They'll come out okay out of this, inshallah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Aurangzeb, for taking the time to talk to us. It was an absolute pleasure.
Jawad, thank you very much. Stay safe, and I wish you and PSDF all the very best.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.